be.
Ok, bien. Vale, bueno, sí, y muy buenas tardes. Todavía hay luz, there's still light. Entonces, buenas tardes. Y vamos a practicar esta noche. Vamos a ver algunos vídeos, pero cortitos. Y lo que ustedes necesitan, what you guys need. If you need to pull this up at a file, or if you printed it out because you just don't like that double file on your computer thing, this set of pictures that we're going to use for our discussion, that is what you will need pulled up to be handy and ready to go, just so that you know, para que sepan, so that you know that will be what you need to kind of hunt for while we're doing our other intro stuff. Okay, I had not expected to do this, but I found this bit of information that I think is going to help a number of you guys who are interested in this, because this is something that people bring up a lot. You know, you're either talking in a small group, or you're reacting to some photos that we're just sort of riffing on, or you're actually sitting down and prepping things to talk about, like those food pictures that, you know, you looked at to prep. And you say, oh, shoot, you know, I know what word I want, but I just can't call it. I can't bring it up to the frontal lobe. I can't get it out. I should know this word. And how many of you do this? I ought to know this word. How many times have we used it? I ought to know this word. Of course. That happens to a lot of people. And here's a method that may help some of you. I am sad to say that it's probably been around for the devotees who really study methodology for a good 10 years, I think. But I think it didn't start to get a good rolling, like, hey, folks, this is a hot method, until maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It is something called the Gold List. The Gold List. And I'm going to include, excuse me, in the recap after class, I will include actually a longer video that goes into more detail of how you set this up. Okay. Because there is a way to set it up, but it's not hard. No es difícil de hacer. It is not hard to do. I'm going to show you the short version, but I'll give you the longer video version as part of the homework to see how to do it. Here's what you need. Lo que necesitan. Wow, muy difícil. How hard. If that's what you need. Eso es todo. That's it. Okay. Now, if you want to get super fancy, I will suggest, because in the longer video, I think you may see this. If you happen to have pens in more than one color, you may want to do that. Okay. But for your first run, for the first 14 days, un color de pluma, un color de boli, y nada más. You need some kind of notebook, and that's all you need. Now, it is not recommended with this method that you type. I frankly am Save the Planet. This is the only notebook I have left in my entire house. I don't have notebooks anymore. I type stuff up because I just don't like writing longhand. But the part of why this method works well is that writing by hand is a process, just in terms of the human brain, that makes it sound strange, muscle memory. It helps you remember. When you type words in to help with memorization, it does not help as much as actually writing it out by hand. This is like a biological thing. It's like the scholars' version of muscle memory that sports people use because they repeat an action over and over so that they can throw a block in American football, so they can hit a tennis ball at a certain angle to get a slice versus something else. Okay, so it's the scholar's thing, writing by hand. It's a thing. But I'm going to show you the brief video on why this works. And I want you to try it because I'm going to tell you, I am going to try it with my French and my German because I have the same issue where it's like, I don't know that word, you know, but yeah, I can't bring it to mind. So let's take a real quick look at this so that you see the shorty version. Y vamos a ver, we'll see. Okay.
Talk Speak English here. Now, if you're watching this video right now, you're probably learning English, spending far too much time looking on the internet or...
And obvious, this is like based on English, but it doesn't matter what language you're learning. Okay.
On YouTube, looking for effective ways to learn vocabulary. You've probably tried all the tried and tested methods of learning these complicated words, but nothing seems to stick. What if I told you that in today's video, I can show you how to learn English vocabulary and remember it in just 30 minutes a day?
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. It's all true.
Stay tuned to find out how. In today's video, we're going to talk about a method that I've used myself to learn Spanish and has helped me learn thousands of new words with little effort. The method is called the Goldless Method, and the great thing about it is that all you need is an A4 notebook and a couple of pens to get started. We will call this notebook your bronze book. Don't worry, I will explain why it's called the bronze book a bit later in the video. This method makes use of something called spaced repetition. The idea that in order to be remembered, an item must be repeated and reviewed several times at long-term intervals before it can be remembered into your long-term memory. Start by opening up your notebook to a double page and write down 20 words or expressions for that day and their translations in your mother tongue with the date.
Now I want you to notice it doesn't have to be one word. It can be a block of words like what you see, cuánto cuesta. It can be single words. Okay, so it could be, you know, freír, a single word, right? It could be el sartén, you know, frying pan, just that. But it can also be blocks of words or what we call chunks that hang together. So it can be phrases or words. Okay, so please keep that in mind. That's going to be in your directions when I get you the directions for how to do this.
This is called the Headlist. For me, my target language was Spanish, and my native language, of course, is English. Spend 2 to 3 minutes looking over the expressions or words and repeating them 2 to 3 times to yourself. For the next 14 days, I want you to create a new head list every single day.
Now, every head list, the one thing he didn't tell you, which the longer video will tell you, put the date at the top of the head list. The longer video will tell you how to do that, to remind yourself to do that. So each time you create a head list, you're going to date it, okay? So that you know what day to go back to, because you'll see why you need to know what date to go back to.
It's important not to look at your old lists during this time, as this is where the magic happens. On day 15, I want you to come back to your first head list that you wrote on day 1 and see what you have remembered best. With the words you don't remember, write them down on the page next to your head list. This is called distillation. Distillation basically means when you are refining your list and coming up with new words you still need to get into.
So you see how he's got a date here, but of course they're dating like the Europeans date with the date first and then the month. Yeah, we don't do that. We flip it in America. So yeah. So he does have a date. You might put the date in the upper left-hand corner. I would, because visually that's what I would see. And that's where I would look to see where I needed to backtrack 2 weeks. Okay. See.
What happened to no estoy seguro in español?
Uy, ¿qué pasó? No sé. I don't know. Somebody took a snapshot and made a boo-boo. But anyway, Okay.
Guys.
Yeah. Somebody omitted it or didn't have it typed in. Lo que sea.
Your long-term memory. 14 days after the second list, I want you to come back and do the same again. And then after that, another 14 days, and the same thing again. At this point, you've completed your head list and 3 distillations or 3 revisions of the word.
Now, so you go from a la izquierda on the left, your original list, right? When you come back in 2 weeks, you see how many you remember. You write down the ones the ones you could not recall are the ones you write on the second list, a la derecha. Okay. That is called what they call a distillation. Now, what he shows you here, percentage wise, here's what the science really says of people who have studied this and who have PhDs and how do people learn? Because these people are way smarter than I am and they know what they're doing. When you get to that first distillation 2 weeks afterwards, here is what is typical. What is typical is you will probably only recall successfully about 30% of the words on the very first head list. That means you're forgetting 70% of them, folks.
So you're supposed to start with ones that you don't already know. I would
You
assume.
start with like words you don't know or words that you kind of know it, but you're fuzzy on
But you
it.
keep forgetting it. Yeah.
You keep forgetting it. Exactly.
Yeah. There's lots of words like that. Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of words like that. We have lots of them. But, I would suggest you make it very personal for yourself. We'll talk about that in a bit. But what he's showing you here, wow, he looks like he remembered at least half. Here is what is typical. People will only remember, the average person, 30% of those words after 2 weeks. So if you only remember 30%, you're on target with the average Joe. Yay for you. Okay. This is the way that the average human being's brain works. You remember surprisingly little, but that spaced repetition of you're coming back to it and then 2 weeks later back to it again and then back again. That is what starts to reinforce that learning process. And he's only got a little bit left to explain here, a minute worth. We'll meet with them.
Now you can stop here, and this could be as far as you want to take the Goldless Method, or you can start a new book. And this is where you repeat the process.
Now, here's where you may not get this far, but what some people wind up doing is they fill a whole book like this, and then they move on to a second book. He's going to tell you what you do with the second book.
By combining all the words in your bronze book that you can't remember.
So the last space you did first head list, second distillation, first distillation, second distillation, third. So, okay, when you have come down into that lower quadrant, the very last, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 lists. When you get to list number 4, those are the words you take and you stick in the silver book. So it keeps reviewing what you don't know. What you don't know is what you need more repetition of. That's where you need the repetition.
Putting them into new lists in your silver book. Once you've finished your silver book, you'll repeat the process for the final gold book.
So some people then take the 4 lists process out of the silver book and they put it in yet another. Now you may not get to that point, and that's fine. But I think this makes sense to me from things I have had with training with people learning vocabulary. The repetition is difficult, and the thing is, you do have to show some discipline to do this, but I think it's one of those things where it's not really rocket science in terms of making yourself do the process. It is discipline, but not rocket science. Yeah. I'm going to let him finish and then I'll come to your questions.
Okay.
Now, if you want more information, be sure to check out the language mentor and polyglot, Lydia Machova.
Okay, I haven't, but this lady who is a PhD, and she studies all things that are related to learning acquisition. She also has a video, but there are other videos, not hers, even though she is kind of the expert. There are other videos that actually walk you through the process more. Okay, tus preguntas. And I'm going to do it too, except I'm going to be doing it with some French and German, and my German is terrible. Mi alemán es terrible. And I have to keep up with my daughter, who knows way more German than I do. Your questions?
Do you think we could use this for verb conjugations?
There you go. You ding, 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 Lisa. Sí. Bien.
That's my biggest problem by far.
Okay.
Hmm.
I started thinking about this, and I thought about it when I saw him writing a whole question out. So what I'm going to send you is a list of, besides saying, here's the link to watch the longer version, because there is a longer version, and it is a little bit of a better video because it literally shows you step by step how she sets it up. You know, how you've got to start on, when you've got 2 blank pages here, you start here. The 2 weeks later, you make your first list, and she talks about checking things off, what you do and what you don't know, how to make your, this will be 2 weeks later, another list. Okay. And this will be the 4th. So it kind of, it's like a clock. It goes in clockwise order. And this occurred to me, and I've got it in your instructions. Any kind of chunk of words that you want to know can be included. And I really think that's going to make sense for verbs. So here's step number 1. Let's say you want to know, because it's something you use when you speak with people, you want to know that little phrase that means, oh, shoot, it slipped my mind, which is se me olvidó. 3 palabras, 3 words. Se me olvidó, which means I totally forgot. I blew it. Okay. You can write those 3 words as one phrase for the head list. Okay. Or, por ejemplo, let's say you have trouble with le di dinero. I gave him money. And you like, I always forget the le di. I always was like, what is it? Lodi? Is it ladi? Is it lady? Shoot, I can't remember. Put that down together in a little chunk. Okay. If you say, I hate preterite tense, well, welcome to the club, because everybody who learns Spanish hates preterite tense because there's so many irregulars. And you say, I want to know how to use decir in preterite, because something I say frequently is like, well, he told me, or I told her, I told him, I told them, and you can't remember that. Les dije, I told them. Les dije, use them together, or just use the dije if you just want to know the said part. Say I'm great with pronouns, but I can't remember how to conjugate decir in preterite to say told. You'll write down dije, D-I-J-E, dije, and I told on the other side. So you have the definition. Boom. Okay. In the longer video, she talks to you a little bit more about ways to set up your workspace when you do this, which actually they are good thoughts. Like, don't try doing it while you're also watching a TV show. I am fond of watching a TV show and doing word games. Don't do that. Don't do it. You may even want to skip music. Let's say you always listen to music when you do anything. A lot of people do. Maybe don't, because you really want to be focusing on the words. So they recommend doing it for 30 minutes every day, but it could be shorter. It could be 20, it could be 15. So yes, I would say if you find the verb thing an issue, do that. You customize it according to what you have a hard time remembering. That's the second benefit. And, you know, you can string together a number of words that, you know, always hang together in a phrase. So that is super, super good. So if you're, and the lady in the video is even going to say, she's even going to confess to you, there are days when I don't do my head list. Oh, well. So don't think that if you skip a day and you don't make a new list of words that you're just like totally screwed and you can't. No, you just skipped a day, you skipped a couple days, you're on vacation, you come back, whatever, lo que sea, okay? So she'll have all time, and she'll also have some tips on where am I going to find these words? Where am I going to find these words? I have suggestions for you. My suggestions are start with the whole food, that whole list of food things, utensils, food, types of food, verbs that we use to talk about ways to cook things, ways to prepare meals. I would start with that. I'm going to leave that as an assignment for you guys. Use that, and that'll make up several head lists. Some people say do a head list, the very first list of words with 25. I think that's too many. Personally, I think it's better to stick to 20 words per list. So if you do that, one head list is going to be just the cooking verbs and nothing more. Another head list will probably be like things inside the kitchen. You could have gobs of lists, loads of lists with food words, okay? But I would say keep it at 20, okay? Even 15 would work if you need to divvy it up that way. Yeah, Kathy.
I just want to thank you very much for this suggestion of a notebook and this way of learning. Right now, I have little notes all over the place.
Oh, we all do that.
And I can't even find them half the time.
I have type notes.
Eres normal. You are so normal. That, you know, and
tons of notebooks.
and these are now out at every Target because as of July 1st,
Cool.
everybody goes into back to school mode. I kid you
Everybody's
not.
got back to school stuff. They're just putting them out, putting them on sale.
Hey, if you want to go to dollar store and find the cheapest thing you can. Does this need to be a tank? No.
Things cheap at the dollar store anymore. I
Oh,
was
well,
just in
$1
there
and a
today.
quarter.
They've got stuff up
oh,
to
dollar and a
$5.
quarter. Sí. Gracias.
Never mind.
What?
Más de $1, more than a dollar store. Tienda de
Yes,
más de $1. Okay. Más de $1. Okay. But in any event, just get the cheapest thing you can and do it. But some people do, like out of the 4 lists, you have the first head list, the first distillation, you come back after 2 weeks, you come back after 2 weeks, you come back after 2 more weeks. Some people do them in different colors of pen. So that's where the colored pen thing may, for some of you, help, because visually,
Fries
helps.
today. Oh, you can't see it.
oh, we can't
Um,
see it.
You can't see it. All right. Well, it's a package of 8 different colored pens on sale for $1.
I
Where
see
at?
this. Okay.
And they're at Fry's.
¿Dónde?
Price.
At
Fry's,
Fry's.
so-
And they're like
Back.
bold, you know, they're not wimpy, thin, fine. You can see that color.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So anyway, I thought I would suggest this because I know a lot of you have mentioned it's like, oh, I know that word. You know, I hear people saying that, and I know what you feel by that. I absolutely know that you think, I thought I was over this hump, but you know, we're not. And it's good for you to know that people are developing methods because they know it's normal for you to struggle with this. And it's that repetition. So what this requires more than anything else is discipline to sit down and actually do it.
I would say again what to do with the colors.
First list goes in one color. When you come back to it 2 weeks later, just use a different ink.
Okay.
I mean, some people find that helpful. If you don't, then don't bother with it. For me, it might look kind of cute, but I don't think it'll really do anything for me. But for some people, it might. Okay. Because every human brain works in a different way. And for some people, colors trigger some certain thing. And that's a thing. We're all different.
Sure.
And
Sure.
But it may definitely help. And I would suggest you absolutely use it on verbs, but make it very personal for yourself. Other suggestions for word lists. Some other suggestions are, go look at, if you do Duolingo, and pull up some of the words that you struggle with. Just go to a regular Spanish dictionary and pull up words for things that you personally will use. Okay. If you want to talk about stuff in your backyard and you want to know how to say bush versus tree versus weed versus versus flowers versus seeds versus how to say to water the flowers, make a list like that. So I would say that if you're really struggling with finding a list, email me and I can I can point you in some directions that will help you. But wordreference.com is helpful. I also have lists of vocabulary words, like thick 6,000 words kinds of books, but that won't necessarily help you. What you want is something that is personal.
Unique,
that
that you'll actually
Right.
use, right?
What Karen might want might be very, very different from what Isabel, Elizabeth wants. And, so that's what you want to go for. Make sense? Sí? Tiene sentido. Sí, Kathy.
I think it's very helpful that you've told us that it's normal to forget things, because I'm forgetting more than 50%, I think. And I kept thinking, I'm too old for this. I can't learn a new language. But these techniques might help.
So just para que sepan, so what triggered this was the folks I have assigned for you many times, David and Anna, just did a recent thing on things you can do to help you memorize. And in the process of watching that, which I'm not going to assign because it's kind of more for people like me, they talked about this method, and I thought, well, I'm going to Google that. So I did, and lo and behold, boom, a whole list of things. So I went through about maybe 5 or 6 videos, picked out the ones I thought were the best. We did the fastest one, and you'll get a more detailed one, because when I watched the short video, it was like, oh, but how does this work? Okay, so the longer video is going to give you the real lowdown of how you actually step through it. It's more like a 12-minute video, but it will help you with the little details where you say, oh, I don't know what to do when I complete this, step number 3. What do I do? Well, it'll tell you how to do that. But one of the things that they were talking about in this video was that actually they came up with that thing of the typical person really only remembers 30% of those words. So you may feel like, I'm a total failure. I only remembered a third of these words. You're not a total failure. This is what is normal for the human brain. Okay. It's that whole thing of the average person. This is the average person needs to hear a particular word about 50 times before they internalize.
That's me.
That's been,
We need 150.
and you might need 100. Yeah. But you know what? If it's a word that's super important to you, you might only need 50. You might only need 10. So, maybe it's a word that you, do I really need that? And then later you find out about a month later, ooh, I know I should know that, but yeah, so, this should help with a lot of things. And I am going to do the journey with you guys as well. So I'll tell you.
In a way, this is like flashcards, which
it is.
I really like.
But it forces you to come back systematically. And so part of the process of this is not only how much you actually do remember, but also how much time you need between the repetition.
Well, I think if you do write it each time, it is going to etch in your brain a little better
It
than
does
if you
help.
just read it. So
Ayuda mucho. It helps a lot. And also, you go back and but no, they don't say, oh, study this list for 30 whole solid minutes. Not really. The setup is deciding which words you want to, and like, if they tell you this takes 30 minutes, it's because you're sitting down, you're deciding which words will I include, you're kind of organizing them, and you're pronouncing them 3 times through. For a lot of you, it'll take 15, 20 minutes per day. Okay. And if you're really super conscientious, maybe a little bit longer, but depende. See? So I'm hoping that's going to help. I'm hoping it's going to hurt. I'm hoping it's going to help. I am going to be doing the same process along with you, just with different languages. So if you truly do get stumped on, because it does ask you to bring up 15 more words or 20 more words every single day. If you do need help figuring that out, send me a couple of things here are things I would use. You have suggestions, and I'll send you some suggestions. But a source that you may want to use for sure, and I will show you this very, very briefly. Really, 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 I find the most helpful dictionary out there. I've got great big fat dictionaries you could sit and do back exercises on. They're like great big steps out of it. They're huge, and I love them, and I'm never going to get rid of them. But when I have to go quickly for something, this wordreference.com is super great. Okay, because when you type in a word, and I've got to switch it from English here, Inglés Español. When you type in a word, the reason this is so good is that it will show you, if you're looking for a verb, here are a bunch of things, and it shows you examples in context. So many times you say, well, I looked up a word, but I don't know which one of these words is right. Well, look at the examples in context. That's going to tell you which answer is right. Okay. If you want to say stop, as in to cease doing that, it's dejar de, and there's a chunk. There's a chunk in yellow, dejar de. You need the de. Why? Who knows? ¿Quién sabe? Nobody knows. You just do. So I look down at this. I don't like smoking and I want to stop. Quiero dejar de fumar. Dejar de fumar. Quiero dejar de fumar. There is a chunk. Dejar de, and you may put infinitive there, right? Dejar de hablar. Stop talking. Dejar de, and dejar de, dejar de manejar. Stop driving. Okay, so it gives you always a sentence in context that helps you arrive at which one of these words makes sense. But wordreference.com, if you don't have a big dictionary, that is great. So, sí, Esteban.
I may have missed it. Alto.
Alto.
Was that on there?
Vamos a ver, momentito. Sometimes you have to scroll all the way down.
Okay, I don't want to take up any time, but would that ever be used when speaking to a person about doing something?
Sometimes, like as a short method. Alto is what you see on the actual red sign with white letters, a stop sign. Some places, and it depends on the country, you will just see stop. Sometimes you'll see para, stop. You'll never see deja. I don't think I've never seen that anywhere, but you may see para from parar. You might say, see pare, they put it in a step form. You might see alto. There are, depending on the region you're in, they'll use different things. And I don't see it, but you know what? I have now scrolled down about 3 different pages. So wordreference.com is super helpful. Okay. Bien.
Yeah.
¿Sí? Juanita, sí, dime.
Talking about this, I remember we've had some units about chunks. And I know I have some lists about chunks and things we put together and words. I mean, really, if I have to look up Talvez again, I don't remember what it is as I sit here, but I know I've looked up. The Spanish Dick should go automatically to it because it's like, God, she said, yeah. So I can see this for chunks and things that go together, you know.
Right.
Yeah, little phrases that mean something different than just the individual words. That's what.
Eso es.
like
Eso
dar
es.
cuenta de
Lo
or something
que,
like that.
lo que. What, you know? Entiendo lo que dices. I understand what you're saying. Lo que. Those, yeah, you know, there are a lot of these problematic combos. So the nice thing about that short video is it did show you it's okay to put in a whole phrase. It's perfectly okay, because when those words hang together, they mean something together. And that's just that, you know, there's no other way to explain it. They just go together. So absolutely manipulate that for whatever you personally need. Okay. Bien. Okay. So I'm going to be sending you a little how to do it, a very brief one, and the link for the longer video, which is going to answer the, I thought I knew how to do this, but I'm kind of lost. She'll answer all the questions, and she'll even tell you she's not super religious about it, and it still helps her immensely. So that gives you some time to work on that. But I think that will help everybody, because we all need help with that repetition end of it. But she does have good tips too for what kind of environment to set yourself up in as you do the method, because that is part of the game. Okay. Vale, magnífico. Vamos a ver. I am assuming you do not need me to go back through this video about stone soup.
No.
See?
No.
It's a super beginner.
It was cute though. Yes, I liked her little drawings.
Muy fácil. Yeah.
Oh,
All
I
right.
have a question.
Sí.
She said Vincino, even for the girl neighbors, which you drew a woman. Wouldn't it be Vincina?
Vecina?
Vecina.
I don't remember her doing that with that. Well, vecina comes in both masculine and feminine. One neighbor may have been a woman versus one being a man. She may have misspoken.
Okay, it
and
is
just use the masculine when she meant the feminine, which shows you that people
she
who are
had
native speaking.
long curls at the end of her hair, and so I'm sure it was a woman, but she did say vecino.
Okay. That's one of the things to show you that is actually good for you to know. There are mistakes that are common for native speakers. And one of them is that, do they ever, you know, you beat yourself over the head, I forgot the gender. Do they ever mess up? Sometimes they do. Yeah. Do they use a lo or a la where they should be using a le? Sometimes they do.
Well, the language is hard. You have to think about how you're phrasing things.
Do you ever make mistakes in English and misspeak? Well, if you don't, pat yourself on the back.
All the time.
I have, yeah. So that just goes to show you that native speakers do that as well. And yeah, you know, not a big deal. Es normal. Ok. A ver. Bueno, ahora vamos a practicar. Unless you've got some other question before we go on, but I think we can move on. I just am very kind of, well, yeah. Estoy emocionada. I'm excited for you to try that. Vamos a ver. Vamos a conversar. I want to put you guys into some smaller groups to talk about these. And you're going to see the actual pictures when you go into your breakout rooms. I want you to have some conversation time in smaller groups. Y por favor, tomen apuntes. Please take little notes where you feel like I did this well, or, ooh, I wasn't quite sure how to do this. And come back with all your great examples when at the end, come back with all your difficulties, and that is fine. Conversación sobre los platos, about dishes. And I want you to kind of, this is a sort of tying everything together kind of activity. I want you to be thinking about things we have done in the last 4 weeks or so, right? Ingredientes, método de cocinar, sabores. It include a number of things. This exercise does not mean that I want you to go through a 5-minute discourse about one of these pictures. I want you to keep it short and simple, okay? Don't stick to every single step, but just a few ingredients, you know, keep it to 3 or 4. You may have only one method of cooking because it may be freír, it might be hervir, right? The flavors, you're going to have something where you say, tiene un sabor ácido. It has an acid type, more acidic type flavor. So, you know, you won't have combinations on everything, but the ingredients and cooking method, you might have a few. Okay. Here is what we're going to spend time talking about these things. Tenemos aquí la primera foto. I'm going to try to make these as big as I possibly can. Lo más grande posible, the biggest possible. Okay. El primer plato es un plato de espagueti. Se dice en español espagueti, no spaghetti. Espagueti, espagueti. SP cannot start off a word in Spanish ever. ST, like steel, and SP, like spray, cannot begin a word, any kind of word, ever. Okay, it's got to be ESP or EST. Espagueti, aquí. Es como shish kebab en inglés, ¿sí? Y una tarta de chocolate. I just want you to work on these first 3, okay? Otherwise, it's going to be too long, a breakout session. Las 3 fotos, aquí en esta línea, in this line here. Entonces, espaguetis, sí, como shish kebab, sí, a la parrilla, y una tarta especial. Okay, you will see those, so just work on the top tier first. Bien, ¿entienden? And go for the main things. I think I'm going to give people about 7 minutes to work on the 3, 7 minutos, más o menos, bien, to give you a chance to, you know, work it all. And we're going to try to get people into about more or less, más o menos, grupos de 3. Breakout rooms aquí, viene. Ooh, they changed a couple things with Zoom where I got to look for things. It's a little bit different. Es un poquito distinto. Okay. Vamos a ver. Bien. Okay, and you will see the pictures when you get back in. A ver, you're going to want to hit your join button, and once everybody does that, I can send the pictures in. Vale. Vamos a ver, vamos a ver. I'm going to do my stop share screen. Uy, uy, uy. Ahorita, right now. Ok, vale, vamos a ver. ¿Cuánto tiempo necesitamos para reunirnos aquí y hablar un poquito más de comidas?
Oh, we
Vale, muy bien. Aquí vienen todos. Everybody's coming on back. Fantástico. ¿Qué dicen ustedes? What do you guys say? ¿Hay ejemplos? ¿Hay preguntas?
preguntas.
Díganme. Ok, vale.
Oh, how did you say drizzle? Like if you wanted to put icing on
The drizzle on the cake.
Drizzle the
chocolate.
chocolate.
Ooh.
I looked it up. They said rosier,
Rociar would make sense to
Rociar.
me.
But they didn't
That
say
would,
that for cakes. You know, I didn't know if that was more.
yeah.
select.
See, sometimes if you look up something like drizzle, it's going to be talking about what it does outside when it rains.
Right. Yeah, I gave rain too, but I didn't.
Yeah. It could be salpicar. Ooh, salpica is splashing it over. Could be, yeah, salpicar.
Okay.
Salpicar. Bien. Yeah, that works. Sí, okay. Buena pregunta. Good question. We use a lot of really particular verbs. in
Oh,
English,
I
don't we?
looked up drizzle of chocolate and I got Jovizna.
Jovizna. I don't think anybody would use Jovizna. Jovizna talks about the rain. Because
Okay.
Jovizna
This is being
comes
too
from that
literal.
word
It's just being-
lluvia. It
Yeah.
comes from that base word of lluvia. Yeah.
Well, sometimes I find if I put in a phrase, then I get something different back because it should know if it's chocolate that it isn't rain. But it didn't.
It doesn't.
Not that smart.
But it doesn't always know.
No.
It miente. It lies. It plugs in something because it's doing that AI thing of, well, I got this word in my data bank. Yeah.
It gave me 3 translations exactly the same. It gave me no options.
It's
It's like
Karen, this is like,
Jovizna.
yeah, this is like the equivalent of, what did we have in the video from a couple weeks back? You know, she thinks a lot of herself.
Oh,
She thinks
right.
a lot of herself. And she showed that she exactly typed that in, and what it spit back is not what people say. Yeah, Jovizna is very, very specific to actual precipitation events falling out of a cloud.
The verb
Don't read
gotar.
it. Salpicar could work. Perdón.
Is the verb gotar applicable here?
Gotar is,
Like
drop.
See,
I think salpicar would make more, or rociar. Rociar es como usar esto, ¿sí? Boom, 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 boom. Little
you had that.
drops.
you had that ready.
Rociar. Yeah, I had that ready. I have this ready. Animales. Esta botella sí sirve para evitar sí un ataque de mis gatos. Okay. Bien. A veces son animales agresivos, sí. Y rociar is this spray that, yeah. So rociar would be usable. Salpicar, splashing some on, that would make sense, but not Jovizna. Buena pregunta. Good question. Okay. ¿Qué más? ¿Hay otras ideas? ¿Hay buenas ideas? ¿Hay ideas geniales? Any brilliant ideas you want to share?
Brilliant.
Somebody must have a brilliant idea. Alguien,
Very
alguien.
brilliance. Oh, what's the correct word for the sticks of the kebabs? Is the like you put it on a skewer.
Palitos, palitos.
Pincho or no?
Palitos.
Or
Okay.
you could use pincho. You could use pincho.
So,
Pincho,
okay.
pincho. Es muy común. Pincho se usa para tapas. Pincho is that word they use for tapas. And a lot of times they are served on a skewer.
Oh, okay.
But a really long one, palito. Palo is a stick. So
That's a tiny-
palito would always indicate a skinny little stick, like for a kebab. See, un palito.
Somewhere I found the word brochetta. Have you ever heard of that? I don't remember.
Oh, sí, pero
But that wouldn't be a good.
muy específico.
I think I looked up skewer.
Yeah. Sí. Es
They said
posible,
pincho,
es
too.
posible, es posible.
They
sí.
said pincho also.
Yeah. Pincho is usually a little, like this size. Yeah.
So palito.
Right. Palito. But, when you need it on the grill, it's.
Mhm.
see?
It's long. Yeah.
So the point is, for this first picture, la primera foto, por ejemplo, a lot of you should have been mentioning things like hervir, to boil, right? Because that's what you do with la pasta. And by the way, there are two words that are used depending on the region. People say la pasta, kind of borrowed from the Italian, or fideos. Fideos, F-I-D-E-O-S. Fideos means noodles. So depending on which country, what they use in one particular place or another, they may use either term. But, something about hervir la pasta es importante, sí. Sí. Y ajo, garlic, ¿verdad? Sí. Orégano, sí. Tomates. Pasta de tomates, tomato paste, eso así, bien. Y queso, claro, queso, se usa queso aquí. Bueno, aquí la segunda foto, our second photo, you want to talk about a la parrilla on the grill, probably, right? A la parrilla is a great chunk to put on one of your head lists. A la parrilla is off the grill. And, this time of year when we're barbecuing a lot, that is a typical term. The folks from Argentina do a lot of things a la parrilla. That is a national pastime, as it is for Aussies, as it is for us. See?
There was a question in our group, if you're
Sí.
using cocinar a la parrilla, would you do say before the cocinar?
Oh, se cocina?
Yeah, excuse me.
Sí, muy común. Se cocina. Se cocina is great. It's a great chunk. Se cocina means you cook. You cook. You, not you specific, but like any old you that I'm talking to. The se cocina is a super common way to combine things, to talk about any particular or any person doing this activity, right? It is kind of an impersonal phrase. Instead of making it sound like super direct, cocinas or hierves, you do this. It's one does this. Se cocina a la parrilla. Bien. Sí, Pat.
Oh, you always use the third person singular. Is that correct for the verb?
If
Or
it
do
is
you
a
ever use it
singular
for-
thing, yeah, se cocina sí. If you're talking about something plural, it could go into third person plural. Es posible.
It
It is
could. Okay.
possible. Okay.
Awesome. Okay.
Es posible, sí.
Okay.
But always third person, yeah. And a lot of recipes are set up that way as well. Okay, bien. And remember, one of those words, if when you want to talk about a chunk, I'm going to give you another reference, like a recap, that little video where this lady made a couple of Mexican recipes. Paulísima is her name. Se llama Paulísima. One of the things that she talks about was how to talk about how big a chunk? When you're asking,
Yes.
oh, I'm going to cut this, how big should it be? And
Al mismo tamaño.
yeah, okay. I'm going to give you that video as one of your references to start some head lists because, you know, trozo, T-R-O-Z-O, trozo. See, and cuando se cocina a la parrilla, when you barbecue on the grill, see, when you grill it, cuando se cocina a la parrilla, se corta la carne en trozos, you know, a trozo is a decent sized chunk. A trozo is, you know, a decent sized chunk. It's not minced or diced. Yeah, you need bigger chunks here, see? De tamaño así, size like this, see? Así, like that. So, okay. Y la torta, you know, you should have had maybe verbs like hornear, to bake, right? Hornear, chocolate, frutas, crema, crema, see? Cream in the middle, see? Glaseado is a term that's often used for icing. Yeah, glaseado, see? Bien. That in many languages, that kind of a word is used. Okay. Hay otras preguntas u otros ideas or other ideas that you want to convey? No?
Yeah, Marilyn,
Sí.
I get confused. I've always thought a pastel is a cake and a torta is more of a pie.
There is a very interesting video where people talk about that. There is no 100% consensus on the word for cake or pie. I'm going to try to dig back. Uy. Me tengo que acordar del video específico. Which term people use for foods can be very problematic. And I'm hoping to do some things on that next week. It depends on where you are. Some people very specifically use torta. Some people just say, you know, we lump everything together, pastel, pastel. And if I can find the right video, they kind of tell you that. No matter whether you use torta or pastel, people will know what you mean.
So if you wanted to say, like, we had apple pie for July 4th,
Yo
I say
diría
torta de manzanas.
Torta de manzanas. Yo diría, I would use pastel de manzanas. I would use pastel.
Really?
Sí.
What about tarta?
Tarta? Sí, sí.
Is that a bottom
Tarta,
only?
tarta, bien.
It's
Sí.
more like a
Yeah.
pie than.
Torta,
Torta, sí.
places torta is a sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tarta, pastel. A mí, bueno, prefiero pastel. I prefer pastel because pastel always gets that idea of baked goods over. And pastel because you have a crust. Yeah, especially for a pie. Prefiero pastel. Pero depende de la región. It depends on the region.
Because apple cake is a cake.
Yeah.
I was happy
Apple
the
pie
same
is
thing.
different.
Así es, sí. Janet, ¿tienes algo?
Well, is this an old term, bizcocho?
Oh, bizcocho. Sí,
Bizcocho.
también bizcocho. Also bizcocho. So some places you go, bizcocho is a cookie.
Mhm.
Some place, yeah, very specifically a cookie bizcocho. Some places it'll mean a cake or pie. So this is one of those things where people do use different terms, but people kind of know that other countries use those terms. So, you know, they'll hear somebody and they go, oh, okay, we don't say it that way, but we use this, but I know what you mean. It's always the reaction you get. That's always the reaction. So depending on where you go, you know, I would, when you go into a store and you're asking to order, you know, just use this and say, aquí se dice, here it is said this way. And people will absolutely get that. entienden, they understand. Okay. There are a few things that they do find odd words that they do laugh at each other about, native speaker to native speaker, but cake wouldn't be one of them. Okay. Bien. Vamos a ver. Let's take another session. Let's do that bottom tier. Sí, vamos a hablar de omeleta, tortilla francesa. Wow, some places call this tortilla francesa, French. Tortilla in Spain is what is used for omelet. Tortilla in Spain is very specifically an omelet, not in Latin America, as you all know. But tortilla francesa, French, right? Some people use omelette. They just adapt that word. Yeah. So eso es. Pollo asado. Pollo asado. We got a roast chicken. Oh, we got some veggies on the side here too. Y, sí, un pastel. Un pastel de limón con merengue. Merengue aquí, merengue. ¿Sí? Bien. Okay. Un pastel especial. Bueno, so you'll see those three when you go into your Zoom rooms. A ver, otra vez. Y 7 minutos más o menos. And you'll need to hit your join buttons. We'll send in the pictures. Voy a enviarles las fotos dentro de poco, just a little bit. A ver. Bien. Share. Sí, así es. Compartir, share. Tengo que empezar otra vez con reloj. I'll start my watch, como siempre. Uy, a ver, aquí. Ok, 2 minutos más. Nos quedan 2 minutos. Y después vamos a reunirnos y hablar un poquito de problemas en conversar o de expresiones difíciles o de, no sé, ejemplos brillantes, ejemplos geniales, genius examples, lo que sea, whatever they may be. Okay. Ok, a ver. Vamos a reunirnos aquí para que todos puedan compartir ideas. Nos quedan 40 segundos más. People must have a lot to talk about because they're not jumping back in immediately, even though they could. Es fácil de hablar cuando se trata de la comida, porque hay un montón de ideas que podemos usar hablando de la comida. Okay, bien. Aquí vienen todos. Here comes everybody. And we're going to move from a little bit of sharing with this into your idea for next week. Okay. A ver. Aquí vienen, sí, aquí vienen más. More folks coming back in. Okay. Bueno, vale. ¿Cuáles son sus ideas? What are your ideas that you want to share with everybody? O si tienen preguntas, díganme, por favor.
What is the verb to use for you're putting the masa in the molde, in a molde? Do you use forrar or do you use rellenar or just pour it in there?
Sí. llenar, llenar, because it's not really servir, it's pouring it into like a pan, right?
Mhm.
Sí, algo así. Yeah, derramar is more for manar, llenar, meter,
Okay.
meter, see, whenever you're putting something inside of a vessel, a container, meter es muy común. Poner, meter, llenar,
Okay.
todos sirven. All of those work. Todos sirven bien. Buena pregunta. Ok, algo más. Algo más. ¿Nada? ¿Nada?
No, say the merengues and peaks. You know, you beat it until it's in stiff peaks or soft peaks.
Ooh.
I think Laura had a way to say it.
No sé
Picos
exactamente.
rígidos.
I found
Ooh.
punto a nieve. Bate a punto de nieve.
Punti. Oh,
Isn't that interesting?
sí,
Nah.
sí. Bien. Some people use, I'm thinking pico, maybe.
Picos suaves or picos
Y-
fuertes.
Sí, sí, así, sí, sí. I'm pretty sure there are going to be different ways to talk about those. See, yeah, but picos would be little. Picos would be like, like
Little-
like that. Yeah,
Well,
picos,
that's what
pero muy
it sort of
pequeños.
is.
Sí,
We can make
sí.
believe. And then
Eso
how do
sí.
you say you put it in the oven to brown?
Yeah, brown it in the oven.
Ah,
They said dorar. Or dorar.
dorar, sí, se usa dorar. Dorar is to make something golden.
Oh, okay. To make it-
Dorar is to make something golden, yeah? Whenever you see dorado, it means something is browned on
Okay,
both sides.
dorado.
Ah,
Okay.
Because they think of that as golden, because that is kind of what it looks
Yes.
like, that's maybe a
Yes.
little bit better than the English.
it's golden brown.
That sounds awful to say brown it, yeah, like
Make it
bleh,
golden sound more
brown it.
rich.
Yeah, dorado, dorar.
Okay.
Dorar. And browned as a description, dorado,
Dorado.
because you can
Okay.
get it golden. Así es. Bien. Ok. Vale. ¿Hay otras preguntas o no?
Mm.
Sí.
Oh,
o no?
If you're cooking steak, would you say dorado for browning it, or you'd use a different word?
Ooh,
'Cause that doesn't
no.
fit.
Creo que no. I think not. Because there are different ways to talk about like levels of doneness. I'm going to find you some information on that next week, because even there, they vary a little bit from one country to another and how they express
it's
well done versus.
Kind of important, like especially in France, because they barely cook it.
Well,
And you have to really specify if you don't want it. super
Americans
super rare.
Americans have a reputation abroad as we just
Lousy.
we kill that piece of meat, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other countries tend to not do that well done thing as a matter of fact. I've even seen some people suggest, oh, don't ask for your meat to be well done. People are going to say, oh God, it's another American asking for a well done thing. It's something that really annoys other people about us.
But well done is really rare. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No. Well
No.
done could be really well done, but if you don't say that you want something, like you want it done medium or you want it done well,
Okay.
you're gonna get it
Get it
barely
raw,
cooked.
barely
It's still gonna be cold in the middle. I mean, it's
It'll,
just
you know,
not.
it'll be sushi.
It'll be browned
They
on
want
the
that in
top and the
today's day
bottom.
and
That's
age,
about
you
it,
know.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh no.
So, okay, in a nutshell, bien cocido is often, bien cocido means cooked well. Bien
Right.
cocido would indicate that, bien cocido, okay? But yeah, we'll find some information for you on that. Okay, here's here's what I want to part with. And I'm going to attach this to the existing file that has those pictures. There are some things I want you to talk about, perhaps some ideas, and come, and we'll do not small breakouts, but big group speaking. I want everybody to talk a little bit about things you snack on. Oh, that's a different kind of eating. Things you snack on. I want you to come next week and talk about the healthy things you actually really do eat. Healthy snacks, healthy stuff you actually do eat. And things that you know you have to avoid. Things that you know you should avoid. Whether you do or not is up to you, but you know, we're going to look at those three things. We're going to talk about the world of what's good for us, what is maybe not so good for us, and we're going to talk a little bit about these different snack foods. Yeah. I'm also going to send you some, it's kind of a regurgitation, but that's a poor way to express it. I'm going to send you a list again of some videos we have used in the past to help you with your head list to get started. So for example, I'm going to send you with the video that talked about verbs we use for, you know, cocinando, cooking verbs, the kitchen related words, and some things that just talked about food prep in general. I think Paulisima's video about how to talk about cutting things in, you know, different sizes and all of that, because those are things that we typically use a lot in our own day-to-day life. I'm also going to send you off with a video. I haven't decided which one it's going to be yet. Actually, one video is going to be on fixing arepas. That one I know for sure I'm sending to you. So it's going to be a great one that is a slow, easy pace. And it's got the double subtitles. It's going to talk about cooking arepas and the controversy over what you put in them and where did they really start and who really started them, because that's a whole big fight over who really first made arepas. And you'll see what arepas look like. And she's going to show you. She's going to actually cook them for you. It's going to be a great video.
Arepas, I'm thinking of earrings. Where arepas?
Arepas?
Sí, ¿qué?
Arepas. Arepas. It will describe it better when you see it in the video.
Okay.
Arepas. Se comen arepas. Arepas are eaten, meaning you in general eat them. Se comen arepas. Se comen las arepas principalmente en Colombia y Venezuela. Pero las arepas son famosas en muchos países. Habla español. Es un plato que todos conocen lo que es una arepa. Everybody knows in the Latin American world what an arepa is, even if it's not native to their country. So people from Peru will say, "Oh, yeah, I hear people talking about arepas." Yeah. People in Mexico, "Oh, sí, arepas." And they'll say, "Oh, they're kind of like this other thing we do." But she will show how she makes arepas. Ella es venezolana. She is a Venezuelan. And Venezuelans and Colombians do kind of argue over who has dibs on who really first started arepas. So she's going to give you some information on that. But the most interesting part is how she fixes it, which is kind of fun to see. I think if you live in a coastal town like New York, you see a lot of places in New York, in Nueva York. Es muy común comprar arepas. They have a large community that actually fixes arepas, so you can get arepas from different countries in New York. I'm pretty sure in California you can probably get them too, quizás en California. But we'll talk more on the snacking side of the world. If I have to preview all of the video on popcorn, I may send you the popcorn thing. There was one I had that is like the most fought over word of anything. But when you're talking about snacks, there's a lot of different things. Some of us eat junk. Of course we eat junk, and some of us eat good stuff for snacks and
Popcorn.
everything in between.
Yes,
Yeah.
Popcorn makes no sense. It must be an Indian word, cacahuetes.
Popcorn, people go flat out laughing. They cannot believe from one country to another. You call it that? Seriously? What a dumb word. What a dumb word. What a dumb word. Yeah, they do that. Yeah. Well, we call it this, The response is usually, well, we call it this. Rather than really saying dumb word, which is, an American teenager would say, but okay. Y eso es todo. And that's it for tonight. Eso es todo, ¿sí? ¿Bien?
Gracias.
De nada, de nada, de nada. Vamos a hablar de comida sana, comida que no es tan sana, food that's not so healthy, y todo junto. ¿Ok? ¿Está bien?
Está bien.
Y
Gracias.
those videos. I'll give you 2 videos that are not for your head list, but are just for listening, for prep for talking next week. Vale, muy bien. Y cuídense mucho.